Did you know the feds are talking about setting negative interest rates? I'll prove it to you and tell you the real effect of insanely low interest rates on you as a self-directed investor right now in episode 135.
You're listening to Self-Directed Investor Radio, America's only podcast exclusively for affluent, self-directed investors, where each day of the week you receive innovative investment strategy and deadly accurate market analysis that's untainted by Wall Street and unblemished by government propaganda, all in 7 minutes or less. Coming to you now from iTunes, Stitcher, and SDIRadio.com, here's your host, Brian Ellis.
Hello, SDI Nation. Welcome to the podcast of record for savvy, self-directed investors like you. Negative interest rates. What a weird concept. Even weirder to have the concept being raised at Federal Reserve meetings and then hearing denials from the Federal Reserve Chairwoman that sound overwhelmingly like non-denials. And my friends, just like every episode, this isn't some fluffy theoretical discussion. It has a real impact on your finances, all the way down to the fees you pay for your self-directed IRA. More on that in a minute. But first, I'd like to thank you folks again for being so patient with me while I've been ill. I'm still not yet 100%, but thankfully at this point, I'm making clear progress. So thank you for your prayers. And second, I'm looking for an intern for a very special opportunity. Given the demographics of my listeners, this isn't likely a good fit for anybody who's listening to me, but it may be a perfect fit for a college-age person you know. This intern, who I hope will turn into a full-time employee, will be trained by me personally to be involved in every aspect of producing the show you're now hearing. And I know a thing or two about the podcasting thing, if I do say so myself, having just launched this show barely 7 months ago and already consistently being among the top investing shows in the entire world. I'd like to teach all of that information to a person who will become my right-hand man or woman, but they've got to be the right person. This is a formal intern program. It's 30 hours a week of work and 20 hours a week of job training. And at the end of that time, the right person will have both wildly valuable job skills and a job opportunity to continue to push forward my grand ambitions for the Self-Directed Investor Radio Show. This position does not require a college degree, but does require a very smart, very driven, very tech-savvy person who wants to make a difference with their lives very quickly. You don't need to know anything about podcasting or internet marketing. I'll personally teach you all of that, but you do need to be very, very comfortable with technology generally and social media and online research specifically. Does that describe someone you know? This could be, well, it will be the opportunity of a lifetime for the right person. If you are or you know that person, please ask that person to drop me a note at feedback@sdiradio.com. Feedback@sdiradio.com. So, negative interest rates. Crazy idea, right? Under normal circumstances, when interest rates are not negative, lenders make loans because they're compensated for that loan by the repayment of all their principal plus the payment of interest. But with negative interest rates, it's different. Not only won't a lender receive interest, but he won't even receive the return of all of his principal. That's a crazy scenario, and one would think it to be impossible. Alas, negative interest rates are the rule right now in parts of the European Union, and that was certainly the case in Japan for a very long time. But what does it really mean? The background on this issue comes from the most recent Federal Reserve Board meeting. Each meeting, the Fed produces a chart showing where each of the Federal Reserve Board members expect interest rates to be in the future. And for one of those Fed board members, the prediction was for negative interest rates. Now, here's the thing. Those board members can predict anything they want, and it's believed to be the case that the person who made that prediction is a non-voting board member anyway. But to me, the really shocking thing wasn't the prediction, but the non-denial denial from Janet Yellen, the eminently unqualified chairperson of the Federal Reserve Board. Asked about this issue, Yellen said, "I don't expect that we're going to be in the path of providing additional accommodation to normal people like me and you. That means they don't expect to cut rates anymore." But she went on to say, "If the outlook were to change in a way that most of my colleagues and I do not expect, and we found ourselves with a weak economy that needed additional stimulus, we would look at all of our available tools. And that, meaning negative interest rates, would be something we would evaluate in that kind of context." Folks, that doesn't sound like Yellen is saying, "No, we're not doing negative interest rates" to me. Does it sound like that to you? I didn't think so. Well, that's all intellectually interesting, but that info is mostly valuable for making your friends and colleagues think you're in the know about economic issues. But does it really matter? Well, yes, it does, because ultimately the rates set by the Feds trickle down to other financial instruments. And who this will hurt, as artificially low rates have already hurt, is the people who were smart enough to save their money and who hope to earn a safe interest rate from CDs or other interest-bearing investments. In a negative interest rate environment, CDs and savings accounts will actually become guaranteed money losers since the nominal rate is negative. But if we're honest with ourselves, that's not really a change. Real rates have been negative for years, given that so many people are collecting only 0.1 or 0.2% on their money while prices are rising faster than that. It's what I call the grocery index. If you put $1,000 in a CD and let it mature for a year, could you buy more groceries at the end of the year than you could have done at the beginning of the year with that $1,000? Almost certainly the answer is no. Your money's losing value. That's an example of real negative rates, even though the rate on your CD is positive and says 0.1%. As an aside, my friends, I don't understand why anybody would let their parents suffer through the indignity of investing in CDs or savings accounts with paltry interest rates and negative real rates of return when there are options that yield 20 to 50 times more than that and are safe as can be. I say your parents because it's invariably the older generation who defaults to placing great confidence in these type of assets, largely because it made sense when they were younger, but certainly doesn't make sense now. By the way, if that's you and you're looking for a way to redeploy capital very safely that's currently languishing in CDs or money markets, then reach out to me at sdiradio.com/consultation, and I'll give you some thoughts about how to help your family stop wasting the opportunity of their own capital in an incredibly safe manner. But it's not just your parents, folks. Did you know that custodial fees for self-directed retirement accounts used to be lower than they are right now for many of the big custodians? The reason's simple. Back in the day, they were able to make a lot of money from the float, from collecting interest on the unused capital in your account. But with today's falsely restrained interest rates, there's no money to be made in that way, and so you're paying more directly in the form of fees and expenses. Now, I don't actually expect that interest rates in America will become nominally, that's officially negative. But it doesn't matter. The dynamic duo of near zero rates that we already have, coupled with rising prices, have exactly the same effect on your real economic situation. More and more, the only reason to keep cash in a CD or a bank account is because that's physically safer, not because it makes sense in any other way. Now, that's all for now, my friends. Remember to pass along the word if you have a friend or family member who might be a good fit for the intern opportunity I described before. And as always, invest wisely today and live well forever.
Thank you for listening to Self-Directed Investor Radio with Brian Ellis. Don't miss a single episode. Be sure to subscribe to Self-Directed Investor Radio right now on iTunes, on Stitcher, and at SDIRadio.com. Your feedback is always welcomed via email at feedback@SDIRadio.com. This show is for entertainment purposes only and is not intended as legal or professional advice for your situation. Content is the property of the Self-Directed Investor Society.